Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'll be presenting a topic on globalization theories. I selected three theories, which I think are very relevant in our studies in globalization. So the first one is the world systems theory. This concept indicates that the world systems theory emphasizes significance of the entire globe as a whole instead of individual nations. The world is divided into three regions, which comprises the core nations, the periphery countries, and the semi-periphery countries. Wherein the core nations are the nations which are very rich nations, the developed nations like the United States, Canada, and some countries in Europe. Also, the semi-periphery are those countries with big economies, but could not qualify with the developed ones. And we have the periphery, those countries that are undeveloped, poor countries, and many of these are found in Africa and some in Asia. The next one is the modernization theory, which states that states that all countries in the world, nations, follow the same route of transition from traditional to modern society. It implies that traditional countries with some assistance may evolve into contemporary countries in the same manner that the modern nations of today emerged in the first place. Now, the modernization theory, as we have learned that all countries in the world are still waiting for them to be developed into modern ones like those in the core nations, those developed nations. However, some may be long, some maybe it wait sometimes to be developed towards becoming a developed nation and state. For example, in the Philippines, we'll be waiting when we will be like the United States. However, we will really pass through the same stages of development from traditional towards a modern society, from being agricultural towards industrial and post-industrial societies. The next one is dependency theory. The concept of dependency theory states that the belief that the poorer periphery or third world nations export raw resources to the rich core or the first world countries. And if this model continues, poor countries will remain poor and dependent on wealthier nations. This goes on and on, the cycle wherein poorer countries will deliver raw resources to the first world countries of the West. Will go on into a cycle, and again, it creates a loop of dependency. And poorer countries will remain poorer, and nations that are wealthy becomes wealthier. Now, for the world system theory, in a micro-sociological perspective, it seeks to explain the dynamics of capitalist world economy as a total social system, wherein there are rich nations, and these rich nations, wealthier nations, finance and then invest their resources even outside their own country, and thus making them richer and more richer, while those host country where they set up their businesses remains poorer and poorer. And the major proponent of this theory is Immanuel Maurice Wallerstein, wherein Wallerstein wrote an article way back in 1974 entitled The Rise and Future Demise of the World Capitalist System, the concept for comparative analysis. Also, in 1976, he published a book entitled The Modern World System, Book 1, Capitalist Agriculture and the Origins of the European World Economy in the 16th Century. The next theory, so this is Immanuel Maurice Wallerstein. Take note, Immanuel Maurice Wallerstein is a Princeton scholar, and in fact, he's also an economic historian besides being a sociologist. He was a senior research scholar of Yale University from 2000 until his death in 2019. Very notable also that he is the 13th president of the International Sociological Association from 1994 to 1998. So really, Wallerstein leads the sociological association, the International Sociological Association, for that for quite a long time. Next is we have modernization theory. When it comes to the development, this refers to the body of theory that became prominent in the 1950s and 1960s in relation to understanding issues of economic and social development and creating policies that would assist economic and social transitions in poorer countries. Now, take note of the evolutionary route, as we mentioned a while ago, that modernization theory believes that there is a uniform evolutionary route that all societies follow, from agriculture, rural, and traditional societies to post-industrial, urban, and modern forms. In fact, there are so many literature that supports that. In other words, all societies once engaged in modernization process follow a predetermined sequence of development stages, from traditional economies, transition to take off itself drive to maturity, age of high consumption, and post-industrial society. So for modernization theory, it is just basic that all societies go through this process. And maybe some are so fast, maybe some are so slow, depending on how nations go through the process. And this theory is advocated by the Harvard sociologist Talcott Parsons, who's one of the book in 2003 uh, highlights this theory, the mandarins of the future, the mandarins of the future, stress the importance of societies remaining open to change and saw reactionary forces as restricting development. Next is the last one, dependency theory. In the economic perspective, an approach to understanding economic underdevelopment that emphasizes the putative constraints imposed by global political and economic order. The major proponent of dependency theory is no other than Raul Prevesc. He is an Argentinian economist who became, prominent in 1960s and 70s concerning the dependency theory. So this is Raul Prevesc. By the way, the dependency theory will tell us that poorer nations continually provide resources to the wealthier nations, and this goes on and on for eternity. And those poorer nations cannot get out from the loop, being always dependent from the wealthier nations, and they do not have any chance to rise towards becoming a core nation, becoming a wealthier nation. So this is dependency theory. Countries are there's a restricting factor of the poorer nations to rise on becoming a wealthier nation. And they will just remain being the producer of raw materials. Thus, the wealthier nation continues to produce goods out from the raw materials, and the poorer nations do not have any chance to be manufacturing or producing those goods, as like the same with the wealthier nations or that produce goods through manufacturing or some forms of productions. And then, of course, Raul Prevesc, as an Argentinian economist and statesman, he serves in the academia and in the government. In fact, he is also an influential head of the UN's Economic Commission for Latin America, addressing inequities in the trade relations between wealthy and poor nations. So Prevesc is not only an academician, but a practitioner as well in the field of in the field of the studies and practices related to globalization. Thank you and have a good day, everyone.